Hey guys, this week's podcast features Andrew Galarneau, the food editor for the Buffalo News. Andrew came down, talked about his start in journalism, the current state of Buffalo's food scene, and his role as food editor. Let's get to it.
I had to interview, I got to interview, what's his name, the guy who eats food, Jody Chestnut, or what, the
Joey Chestnut,
yeah,
right?
Joey Chestnut. And I was totally unprepared, and so I just brought my iPhone, and I was like holding it up to him, and then when I left, I realized that I had never hit start on the thing, and so I had like a good 10-minute conversation that I immediately just like opened my notes and.
Well, see, Donnie, the thing that were you involved in journalism in like college?
When I was in high school, it was like the one thing I really wanted to get into. Like one, because I enjoyed the idea of writing about topics that I was passionate about or that I was interested in. But I also really loved the movie Almost Famous, which is super, super superficial. Like really, like
I know. I mean, that's an appealing portrayal of being a reporter.
Yeah, and especially music journalists. Like that idea to me that was even a job. Which I mean, now maybe not so much.
Do you ever met Jeff Myers, our music guy?
I have not. No.
He's one of the very good ones.
Yeah.
He played lead guitar in a band in Buffalo for 10 years and then got into journalism and was a alt weekly editor and ends up, he's we got somebody like that to write about music, which is great.
Yeah. I feel like that's a pretty good vantage point to have.
I don't know that it's writing about food for the Buffalo News is the best job I ever had.
Yeah.
The thing you might not know or realize is that before I started writing about food for the news, for more than 20 years, I was a straight news guy.
Like news journalist?
I covered cops, courts, general municipal activities. I did some investigative reporting in a couple of in Massachusetts and in Niagara Falls.
Okay.
I got to write big, long 5-day series with multiple parts about various things.
Nice.
And after all that,
Yeah.
to write about food for a living is such a relief. I have to tell you.
Wait, do you feel like the stakes aren't as high, or?
It's not that. It's that when I call people as Andrew Galarneau, the food editor of the Buffalo News, they're almost always happy to hear from me because the news is a powerful tool for focusing people's attention on things.
Oh God, yeah. And
despite all of its faults and its shrinking circulation and the general dismal state of the newspaper industry today, it's the most powerful form of mass communication in Western New York right now.
Yeah, definitely.
Especially when it comes to things that people really want to know stuff about, like food and cooking and stuff like that.
Oh God, yeah.
So, you get to... People want to be part of your report. I officially work 37.5 hours each week for the Buffalo News. That's what it says in my paycheck. And there is only so much time in each week that you can do all of the different things that I need to do.
Yeah.
The thing everybody wants to talk about, restaurant reviewing, is like
it's
10% of it.
Yeah.
Of what I do.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean... if you'd like, I can briefly go through the list of my weekly responsibilities.
Because, I mean, food editor, it's a big term, but it's I mean, I think that a lot of people probably assume that it just means that you do the restaurant reviews and then you kind of oversee the cheap eats reviews.
Well, in addition to that, my main job is to write the display feature story every week and the taste section, which runs Wednesday in the Buffalo News and on buffalonews.com. So, that's should be a full-fledged feature story, which means it's an original idea, local people, something to do with food, just a little window into somebody's life in food, whether it's a lot of times they're restaurant focused or they might be individual cooks. I've been trying to work my way up the supply chain, getting more growers, producers.
Yeah, that's becoming a big topic.
People who are making your food.
Yeah.
Right now, to be honest, the people who the food that gets eaten in Western New York is largely, 95% in a statistic I just made up.
I'm not going to fact
still from outside sources, so it makes sense not to go too hog wild over everybody who put in a patch of radishes.
Yeah.
But there are people who are doing truly significant things, and we try to get them into the report. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so every week, and so that involves getting the story idea, finding the people, talking to them, arranging it with them, setting up photography, which is a crucial part because we're a feature section. We need to show you images. All original. Mm-hmm. We don't take handout art if we can help it, which is 99.9% of the time. So you set all that up. Okay, that's one story. You talk to people, you transcribe the interviews, and you write the story. Yeah. Okay, that's every week. Okay, number 2, I put together the recipe page 3.
Yes.
Which means I go and look at the various wires that we have, which are a list of great food stories from the Washington Post, Los Angeles Times, Chicago Tribune, and lots of little papers that are good. Mm-hmm. And you pick the best stories as a mix for your readers every week. Mm-hmm. You know, you have to you go to the websites, you download the photos. And then it's actually another page designer who actually puts the page together. But I have to find the stuff. I have to go through each recipe that's printed and manually change the character in the file because we can't read fractions for some reason in our system.
And with recipes, that would probably be an issue.
You would be surprised how many fractions one recipe can have. Every time you see half a teaspoon, it's like, damn you! Go the full teaspoon, man!
Just put 0.5.
But seriously, I mean, double click on it.
Yeah.
No, actually, you can't double click on it. You have to click and drag the right amount. You have to pull up another menu, double click on the right thing to replace it that it should be. And that's for each and every one with a mouse. Mm-hmm. I'm the world's worst typist, by the way. This is a good time to point this out.
Yeah.
I type with 2 fingers and a thumb of each hand.
Nice.
That's what I do. I
QWERTY.
cannot sight type in any way. I can type out of my head kind of fast.
Yeah.
But then I have to go back and correct for typos. Anyways, I'm making a lot of excuses here. So I have to put the recipe page together.
Yeah.
That gets taken care of by somebody else. So then there's there's Out to Eat, which is supposed to be a little spotlight on either an upcoming event at which the public can purchase food that should be tasty of some sort. We try to spotlight, individual efforts that are.
I really enjoyed the Out to Eat. Like I consider myself.
And just let me.
Okay.
And the second kind is we focus on a dish somewhere that someone's doing something different, something worth celebrating. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, and I was gonna say that's one of my favorite features that I read every week, and it's because I consider myself pretty knowledgeable about the food scene in Buffalo just because I've made it my hobby. but every week it seems like you actually are posting something that I have very little knowledge of or is completely new to me, and it's been really refreshing and adding to our constant wish list of things that we need to visit. So I really enjoy it.
Well, thank you. I mean, that's kind of the goal, is to you have so much time to create reports, to tell people little bits of the world out there that they didn't personally know of, that should be part of their interest. So the great thing about food, returning to this, is that everybody's got to eat,
Yeah.
I mean, it's the one thing everybody can talk about. Not everybody cares about the bills, or how the stock market's doing, or healthcare reform. Everybody likes food.
Yeah.
So, it's so much better than, 15 years ago as a police reporter, you go knocking on people's doors after someone in their neighborhood gets murdered.
Yeah.
To see if there's anybody who wants to talk about it.
Yeah,
that's what you do as a reporter. That's just part of the job, and that's what I did, and it was fine. I just like talking to people about food.
Yeah, it's definitely a more it's an easier topic.
So, I haven't gotten to the restaurant review yet.
Yeah.
So then there's the restaurant review. So the Buffalo News at this point, policy is it will pay for one visit. I try to take extra people sometimes if I can.
Yeah.
And you try to give people the fairest estimation of what your experience was like at that one meal.
Yeah.
You try not to overgeneralize or try to suggest any sort of trends or bigger things about a place.
Yeah.
Unless you've been there a few times. And if I've only been to a place once,
Yeah.
here's what it was like is the best that you can do.
But I've always felt like, so I know that there's people out there who say that like you should visit several times, and that's obviously not a bad idea, but our point of view when we started writing up restaurants and only going once was that if you had a really horrible time once, there's very few people who are going to be like, you know what? Let's go back 2 more times before we put our like who in the world is dropping like $80, has the worst meal of their life, and are like, I'll go back again. I'll try it one more time. Like I feel like I don't know. That's just me. I mean, I'm not making a definitive point on a restaurant. I'm explaining our experience, which I feel like is what you do as well.
Well, you try to just give people a little window.
Yeah.
On it. Like, what would you tell your friends if they asked, oh, you went to that place, how was it? Mm-hmm. What would you pick out of the whole evening, of the whole, whatever, 2 hours you spent there?
Exactly.
That you would want to mention?
Yeah.
Pros, cons, whatever. Things that stood out.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. I would love to go to a restaurant 3 times.
Yeah.
Before I wrote about it.
Yeah.
Are you crazy? It would be awesome. Anybody who wants to come and pay me to do that, I am totally down with that.
Yeah, I would.
My employer does not pay me to do that, and therefore I am not going to do it free.
Yeah. Like
you do it, Donnie.
Well,
and God bless you, sir.
Yeah, we got to eat anyway, so we might as well.
Well, okay, healthy attitude, but the duty of thoroughness,
mm-hmm. Yeah,
it would be great if I could. And I love writing about a place that I've been to numerous times, mm-hmm. and I can tell you something of the bigger picture.
Yeah,
but I think it helps coming from a hard news background mm-hmm. into this sort of critical writing about restaurants.
Yeah.
In that you have to be very careful always as a reporter not to overstate your facts. What have you seen? What have you understood? What can you tell people that's relevant without getting off into some flight of fancy? I try to be careful about trying to tell people what's on the plate.
Yeah.
I mean, at least if I'm not going to be able to offer you some opinion on, 10 years ago this dish would have been made totally differently.
Yeah.
Because I've been doing it for about a year.
Yeah.
At least I can tell you here's what it was like. I can describe it in words that you can appreciate. You can get an estimate of like, would I have liked that or not?
Yeah.
So in the 10% of my week that I spend writing about, restaurants, I try to worry about those kind of things.
Yeah.
In the end, I think what you're asked to do if you're going to be a critic is to be honest as you feel you can be.
Yeah.
You can't offer believe me, my reporter's eye picks up lots of details I would never think of mentioning in a restaurant review. Because listen, you can say whatever you want. Yeah. But I think one of my first rules that became clear is, yes, you can say whatever you want, but it doesn't mean you should. Rule number 1, don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick to be a dick.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're being a dick, but it's somewhat justified.
Well, let me give you a couple of hypotheses.
Yeah.
Let's say you're sitting at a fine dining restaurant. I mean, a place that is making a big deal out of being nice, white tablecloths, and $30 entrees.
Yeah.
And a fruit fly goes by. And you're like, fruit fly. Take a little sip of your drink, and then a second fruit fly goes by. Now, real question. How many fruit flies have to fly by before you're like, Jesus, this place is supposed to be nice. I mean, what is going on?
Yeah.
Is this Wild Kingdom? I mean, we're going to see a little, oh, that's fresh fish. No, really. No, how many fruit flies do you need to see? Those are the things I worry about.
Yeah. Yeah, because you don't want to make it seem like you're trying to make I don't know.
Right. I mean, anybody can get a fruit fly wandering around.
Exactly.
But then the second fruit fly, and if you see a third fruit fly, I mean, the question at least arises. I have never mentioned fruit flies in the review. But, at a certain point, you're like,
Yeah. Well, that makes sense.
I mean, don't be. If I think if a fruit fly flew by and you mentioned it, you're being a dick.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah.
Okay, a little more frequently, tippy tables.
Oh, okay.
I decided at some point, probably you're not going to hear a lot of complaints about tippy tables under $25 on entree, but
that's true. Yeah, yeah.
After a certain point,
you're
actual physical comfort becomes important. So I guess what's my point here? My point is I'm trying to sweat the details for people.
Yeah.
and give them information about my experience in a way that even if they don't agree with my values or my assessment, like, yes, this was super, or, yo, this was not good.
Yeah.
At least maybe there's enough information there, hopefully, that they could like independently say like, well, he doesn't like it that way, but that sounds good to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, how do you, what do you do then when you go to a restaurant that's maybe more like ethnic or because I know that you have a passion for Asian cuisine, and I've talked to you several times about Szechuan and what else we talk about, Peking Quick One and all those good joints. Because I feel my problem when I've ever done that is I don't really have like a library of knowledge of the different cooking of Chinese culture and things like that.
I think when you find yourself in that situation, which I find myself in a lot,
Yeah.
this afternoon,
Yeah.
I'm sitting in a cafe in Niagara Falls, Ontario.
Mm-hmm.
I'm there because it's called Afghan Horseman Kebab, and I have never had Afghan food to my knowledge.
Yeah.
So I want to see what Afghan food is like. Never had it, but that's what the internet is for. You know, Google image search. You flip through half a dozen things. You're like, oh, all right, whatever.
I've done that a lot.
And then you go into a place, and you ask for you ask for something out of the heart of the batting order. You really got to ask for the specialties. Look around, figure out what the specialties are, ask for that, and then just react to it. Did you like it? First of all, describe it. What is it like? What is it? What are its textures, its flavors? What does it remind you of?
Yeah, yeah.
And then, did you like it? It's a separate question. Did you like it?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think you can honestly give people good information that they will find worth reading or listening to, as long as you can just answer those questions.
Yeah.
I don't think you have to have
the A word.
eaten lamb shashlik in the mountains outside of Kabul to be able to decide, did I like that kebab I had there in Niagara Falls, Ontario?
Yeah, yeah.
Which I did, by the way.
Yeah, no.
And I think you'll be hearing more about that.
I mean, because it's the dreaded A word. It's the authentic word. It's the people who... There's a group of people who value that more than maybe I do or that I know of or anything like that.
I think that, I'll go along with the authenticity jihad as far as it goes, as long as it has a specific point, as long as there is a reason to argue about authenticity.
Yeah.
Case in point, banh mi.
Yes.
Banh mi bread.
Which is getting very popular right now.
I wrote about Niagara seafood.
Yeah.
Authentic, right? I had to talk about banh mi in a town that didn't have banh mi that was, in a word, authentic, and that's a useful shorthand, because what you're saying in there is the versions offered do not match up to the excellence that has so enthused people in other marketplaces.
Yeah, yeah. The reason it's like the hot sandwich right now in big metropolitan cities.
Right. If something's not, sometimes saying something's not authentic is a useful shorthand in saying the best features of this dish are not represented well in this version.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you on that.
But, authentic. And I've been I'm working on a story about talking to Chinese people about eating Chinese food.
Yeah. Because
for some reason, I'm interested in the way they see Americans' views on Chinese food, basically what I did was I sat down with some Chinese students from the University of Buffalo.
Yeah.
And we had a couple of meals and we talked about all sorts of things. And one of the things that I thought was interesting about it was that in the question of authentic is that what you have in the Chinese people, cooking culture going back 5,000 years.
Yeah.
These people have figured out how to make anything tasty. They had famines that lasted in that country. Half as long as the United States has been in existence. Okay, 5,000 years, long time. So they have developed a lot of ideas about food and the stuff that keeps you going. And one of the things that's interesting, though, is that wherever the Chinese end up, they do their thing with whatever materials come to hand.
Yeah.
So authentic Chinese. There are numerous specific strains of Chinese food, some of which you can get in Buffalo, like Hakka Chinese, which is Chinese Indian.
Yeah.
The Chinese who ended up doing whatever in India put their hands to stuff that, like stir-fried paneer.
Okay.
And stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And then one time I ate at a restaurant in Manhattan that was Cuban Chinese,
Wow.
The Chinese in Cuba took the black beans and the plantains and the big old pork
That
chops
sounds amazing.
and went to town in a Chinese fashion on it. So you
Yeah.
ended up with, pork chops with black bean sauce.
Yeah.
So I guess my point here is, since the cuisine is changing and cooks are just trying to make people say yum and eat stuff wherever they are with whatever they can put to hand, I think authentic can be a moving target.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is real and what is, actually eaten by the indigenous peoples of the area, changes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's kind of where I've landed. And to me, sometimes when people bring up that, it's more of a humble it's not even a humble brag. It's more of a brag. It's more of a I've been a lot of places, and I can tell you when I've had this, it didn't taste anything. I've gotten that from several people who I feel just have said things like that so that they're on the record, that people know that they've been like that. But that's just my experience.
Let me take this opportunity to cop to being that guy. I was that dick. Yeah. I've been that guy in conversations, and I'd like to apologize for it here now in front of everyone on the internet. And look, I can just tell you where it came from when I caught myself doing it and I stopped. But I'll tell you where it came from is having had these peak experiences of cuisine in places where you finally found something at the end of your search, and it was so amazing that you found it, and it was amazing, and it cost $5.
Yeah.
In the basement of this little warren in Flushing, New York.
Oh, Flushing, Jesus. I mean, you could just walk around there for like 2 months.
Where I found this incredible, spicy, shredded, Sichuan pepper laced lamb sandwich. They called it a hamburger. But it was basically this super spicy shredded meat, all the chilies and the spices in there, and the top of the big handful of cilantro on this big puffy wheat bread, freshly baked. $2.50. Did I happen to drop that into some conversations that were not primarily designed to retrieve that information?
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
I mean, I'll admit I've done the same. Like I've had baklava or something like that. And I'll be like, I found a little place in Turkey that had the best baklava. And then,
you've been to Turkey? Shut up.
And then halfway through, I'm like, oh my God, I just did that.
There was a time in my life when I spent time poking around food blogs and looking at pictures of things that made me hungry. I don't do that anymore. No, man. It's a total occupational hazard, and it's a huge bummer.
Yeah.
I may never get to the hawker markets of Singapore. I may never get to Thailand or Turkey.
It was only for 6 hours.
Yeah, whatever. But I put that hunger to use, I think, here, being determined to find people who are up to tasty things and dragging them into the limelight.
Yeah.
And so I have those 4 articles I do every week, which are different things for different reasons, but the combination, hopefully over time, helps just point the attention cannon I have attached to my arm at people who deserve some attention because they're working really hard, and they're everywhere out there.
Yeah.
If I had 4 more people like me who I could tell what to do every single day at the Buffalo News, we would not run out of stories.
Yeah.
And that's very exciting, but it's also a tremendous challenge.
I mean,
everything is prioritizing. Yeah.
Well, you've been doing the food editor role since 2009, correct? Or maybe earlier?
Something like that.
Somewhere around there. I mean, so for background, I was watching the DVD of Nicholas A. Chef, which you're featured on, which comes with the cookbook. Mm-hmm. And there's a quote of you saying that somebody asked you if you thought that the Nicholas A. Chef idea would work in Buffalo, and you thought that we weren't there yet. And that it wasn't going to work out.
Yep.
Have you seen, as you've been writing about food and the interest in different cuisines and things like that, have you seen a growth in the last 4 years? I mean, a significant growth?
A growth in what?
A growth in that foodie culture coming to Buffalo. That people are more interested in better ingredients or different cuisines, things they haven't had before.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the internet mostly. I'm serious. The internet makes it possible to be hungry and engaged by things that you can't actually put your hands to.
Yeah.
You can't touch them.
Yeah.
It makes you hungry for things that don't exist yet in your town.
Yeah.
And I think that's had a huge effect on people. You know, there's also the synergy of a certain, group of the population that wants better food without chemicals or with chemicals or whatever. There's people want everything.
Yeah.
But people are more into food as a consumer issue.
Yeah.
I think. So you add those things together and you have more people who are interested in seeking out tastiness. I mean, okay, perfect example. Midnight Mass.
Yes.
Bistro Europa's boutique once a month, maybe like Foodgasm, Nerdgasm.
They just announced a new one today.
I saw it and I can't go to the fried chicken
Don't worry, I will take
soiree
plenty of pictures
either.
for you.
Yes, thank God. You'll be there for all of us, Donnie, who can't fit inside Bistro Europa's 24-seat phone booth.
Yeah.
Would that have happened 4 or 5 years ago in town? I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
This industry night that it happened is a fact that things are getting more organized and more people are getting focused.
Yeah.
Excuse me. I would love to see the first restaurant that opens because of Inn.
Yeah, like a sous chef or something like that.
Right? At some point that's going to happen.
It's really part of it is networking.
Right, and so that happened. That's a structural thing that exists now in the Buffalo food community where people can show up and meet other food freaky people.
Yeah. I like to say food nerds.
Food nerds.
Foodies has gotten this connotation now that people hate.
I mean, it's just hungry people, man. They're just the hunger. They got the hungers, and
like
different people got different hungers.
Yeah.
You got your vegan types.
Yeah.
Falafel Happy.
What?
Shout out for my boy at Maniquiche.
You just wrote about that.
On Hurdle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go in there. That Palestinian dude will hook you up. Whatever you want. You want meat? Bang. He's got your lamb kebab. You want falafel and za'atar, all sorts of vegan goodness? Hook you up.
I'm all about that.
I mean, and for like $6, it's ridiculous.
That's the best part of Middle Eastern food.
I don't know if the restaurants in town are definitely better than they used to be, or if I'm just paying more closer attention. Honestly, I don't know how the mix is going, but I can tell you that there are more people doing interesting things, exciting things.
Yeah.
And is there signs of progress? I don't know, but individual narratives are advancing.
Yeah.
The food trucks are advancing.
Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah.
Bruce Wazela finally got his own place.
I cannot wait to go there in a month.
You think I didn't put that on my list? Like the first second I heard about it? Because I've got the list.
Yeah.
And things are happening. Every time Krista Glennie Seichu announces another season of Nickel City Chef, people buy all the tickets. I mean, I try not to be seen as telling the future ever.
Yeah.
Because number one, I'm supposed to be a journalist, and number two, I suck at it, and it's just embarrassing. So you stay away from it. But I mean, you have to be able to point. I think you have to be fair and point out that trend lines are getting interesting. There's some interesting stories happening. I mean, Community Beer Works.
Yeah.
People are putting more time and effort into food that's getting provided to the Buffalo area restaurant public than I'm aware of. But then again, that has to have a big fat asterisk next to it. I mean, I've been really paying attention for about a year.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, but has the rise in people, maybe like the foodie culture and all that, has that maybe changed your job at all? Like, do you find yourself now feeling like, you know what, I can write about this little tiny place because more people are interested in it? Or were you always just picking stories that you just wanted to feature?
I would have to say the latter. I mean, I never really cared too much about other people's tastes.
Okay.
I have been for like 10 years now trying whenever I got a chance to write about the little places that gave you deliciousness where you would never expect it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when I walked into Street Cafe on Main Street for the first time, or by Fillmore,
Okay.
and found out that there was a Bangladeshi lady in there who would make you bake to order bread and curry goat and all this other stuff for like $4. I was like, that this exists in the world is such a marvelous thing that the world must know. That's why I started a food blog.
Yeah, I would.
I have there are two food blogs that are still up on the internet. One Big Kitchen, and before that, Buffalo Buffet.
Yes.
They are moribund. They are untouched. And I'm told that in the digital world that says all sorts of horrible things about me. And they're all true. It's all true. But those are, remnants. It shows, I mean, early on, I just was like, man, I want to write about this.
Yeah.
And I want to write about it in ways that I'm not exactly sure about yet. But, I think one of the great things about a blog, as you may have noticed, is repetition, you can get better. You can hone your voice a little bit. You can decide what we're going to do and what we're not going to do. And we're only going to tell people about things that we decide are consonant with our message.
Yeah.
Because over time you realize you've got larger things to say, larger things to point out. You have standing.
Yeah, and we've also become more educated ourselves as we've done this. I mean, if you look at what I would get excited about in 2009 compared to what we're getting excited about now, it's, I don't know. I mean, we were freaking out over French fries.
Well, look, I mean, as somebody who's almost as new to this as you are in certain respects, I mean, what can anybody do except for try to hone their game as they go along?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody starts someplace, and you try to get better. And I think the audience, the readers, the people who care, the people who want to listen, will forgive many stumbles as long as the overarching air is one of transparency.
Yeah.
Just don't pretend you're somebody you're not. That's all.
Yeah.
I hope to never come off as some sort of super deep expert on something that I have not run into. I mean, I explain it in reviews like, this is the first time I've had this.
Yeah.
You're just being honest with people, but here's how it strikes me. And I think, you know what? In some ways, it's just as valuable to a reader because most of those people haven't tried any of this stuff either.
Exactly. That your angle and your view of it is what, like, the whole arc of our thing was that I was the worst eater in the world and I wanted to become better. And so I thought, like, that was the people I could reach out to. Like, listen, I used to go to Fridays every weekend too, not ironically. and
see, that's a great voice. That's a great shtick.
Yeah, you
got, Donnie. Yeah. I mean, the greatest thing is it's just you being you. Yeah. You're just being real. You're just telling, and that's the easiest, I think, sort of criticism sort of slot to get into is if you can just be yourself, then at least you don't have to worry about that part of it.
Yeah.
You still have to worry about getting the names of the dishes right and the prices and everything else. But if you can just level with people and say, look, I didn't like this particular dish, but you know what? I've not really been a fan of artichokes for a long time.
Yeah.
If you can just level with people, I think that they're willing to go along for the ride. They won't agree with you all the time, but then
that's what comments are for.
If you could write a restaurant column that everyone agreed with all the time, it would be such watered down bullshit that no one would read it. Because if you could write it that no one could disagree with, well, look at your audience. I mean, you know, from the vegans over to the carnivores pounding down blood rare steaks. I mean, they all deserve a place under the big tent.
Yeah. I mean, when you made the transition though from like news journalist to food editor or food writer even, I mean, was that kind of, I mean, did that get you through the change of like normally a journalist doesn't give their opinion on things.
Right.
I mean, that's a huge twist for your job. I mean, when you started out, like, was that like a thing that you just had to get used to saying or writing?
Well, yes. Yes. The first few reviews especially were quite tortured. Well, because you have, I wrote an opinion column when I was in college at the University of Buffalo for the student magazine.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm saying this is the first time I'd ever written opinion,
Yeah.
but it was the first time I'd ever been paid to write opinion. And in the intervening, 20 years, after rigorously trying to stomp out all traces of opinion in your writing,
Yeah.
it comes in fits and starts.
Mm-hmm.
So it goes back to questions like when I write, I try to be as precise as possible. I try to offer colorful details, try to illustrate things for people. Hopefully they can see, hopefully a little bit through the words I've chosen, what I'm trying to point their attention to, if it works. But the problem with this style of writing is you get back to the 3 fruit fly questions, like which details are salient, which are not.
Yeah.
Fundamental number 1 rule: don't be a dick. Let me give you an example. I reviewed a restaurant as a test run when before I was officially announced, and
As a lead review or as a food editor?
When Janice told them that she wanted to set a date for her retirement from writing the restaurant reviews, they said, we think we want you to do it, but first go do a review. Mm-hmm. And so I wrote a review and I brought it back, and it was too detailed. I was still too much in reporter mode.
Yeah.
It mentioned the tippy table. There were flies chased by a bee in the restaurant. And when the dessert came, it was a vanilla panna cotta, which, as you know, is Jell-O, essentially. Mm-hmm. And I could see imprinted in the glistening top of the panna cotta, the recycling emblem that was on the bottom of the little 1-ounce Solo cup that they had molded it in.
Nice.
And for a $25 entree restaurant that was going to charge me $10 for this dessert, I was like, that's something I don't want to see.
Yeah.
The recycling, the little the triangle with the arrow, right? Yeah. Which is imprinted, embossed on plastic cups. I'm not blaming the chef for using that cup. It's probably a good thing, but I'm just saying my critical meter, my detail meter was cranked up too high. Yeah. At that point. Yeah. So I put it in the review, and I sounded like a dick. But that's the kind of stuff that gets ironed out if you have a little time and you can do some drafts, get some feedback. And come back and write some things where you just try to be...
Was that the notes? You're a little too much of a dick, Andrew.
I'm not sure if that was a quote, but that's how I felt.
You want another?
How long do these things usually go? Usually get people good and drunk, and then they ramble on for 40 minutes at a clip.
Yeah, 40 minutes to an hour.
Don't people usually ask for a break at some point?
At 40? About another 20.
Well, sure, I'll have another beer. Well, maybe I'll have a little nip.
Let me, we'll edit all this out. Scotch or bourbon here?
I'm particular to the Knob Creek.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how is, it has to have reviewing food has had to have impacted the way you go in to eat a restaurant or go in to eat a meal, even when you're not on the clock, so to speak.
Sure.
Like, are you able to turn it off when you go into a new restaurant or anything like that, and you're not writing about it?
I'm always taking notes. I am taking notes unless I'm in a place where I've been, 5 times in the last year, and that's not a lot of places. Okay. One of the terrible tragedies that I'm sure everyone will really just weep over of being a restaurant reviewer is that, I have to go to a different place every week just to be able to tell people about it in a week's restaurant review.
Yeah, you can't write about Mike A's every week.
Oh.
I would love
that would be okay.
I would love to.
But you have to go to 52 places a year. Yeah. New, different.
Yeah, at least.
I do not have time for 4 restaurant nights a week in my week. Mm-hmm. Big shocker. So, we can go probably a month or two without going back to a place that we just wanted to
Yeah,
because we wanted to.
Yeah, I'm right with you on that one. We very rarely revisit places just for leisure.
And I'm sure everybody's going, oh. Anyways,
Yeah.
no, but the experience has been transformative as a restaurant customer. I used to be just another customer. Now I think I understand the systems more.
Yeah.
And the first thing I noticed was that I started taking a more active role in being a restaurant customer.
Mm-hmm.
I had been, fairly passive, didn't want to intrude, didn't want to seem rude. But you know what? Once I started spending a lot more money in restaurants, I realized that sometimes you have to take a little more of an active role in obtaining your satisfaction.
Yeah.
If something is not the way you wanted it or the way you expected it,
Yeah.
really, it's not rude at all. Just tell the server that, this isn't quite what I expected. Can it be done differently? In other words, give the server a chance to make you happy.
Mm-hmm.
They really do, most of them, want to make you happy.
Yeah.
Because they expect you to tip them, and if a happy person tips better.
Exactly.
They want to help you out. So bring something to the server's attention if it's not what you expected, what you wanted.
Yeah. And in a polite
In a
tone.
polite way.
Yeah.
Look, sometimes you're going to run into somebody who's like, no, that's just the way it is. And okay, whatever. That's an acceptable answer. That's a legitimate answer.
Yeah.
But I think you'd be surprised, if you've been in restaurants as often as I have recently, how many times somebody will be like, oh, okay, no, we can fix that.
Mm-hmm.
We can cook it different, cook it longer, different sauce on the side, so on and so forth. And since I started taking a more active role, I think I felt better about being a restaurant critic at the same time, because I don't like to bring up something in a review and offer it as like a criticism without, a substantive criticism of the way a restaurant or a server is acting without giving them a chance to correct it.
I see.
Because that makes a huge difference. Just think of yourself in the seat. If somebody brings you the wrong thing, and you take an active role right away, not just sitting there muttering and like poking at it, and say like, this isn't actually what I ordered, or this isn't what I expected. Or sometimes if the fault is your own, saying, I misread the menu, if that's what happened.
Yeah.
And I know I won't enjoy this. Can you, replace it with something? Sometimes people will take you up on that. And you know what? My opinion of a place that is willing to work with you that way goes way up.
Yeah. That's huge.
That's a part. That's one way places set themselves apart.
Mm-hmm.
One place I have, I will say that will do something like that is like Lombardo's.
Yeah.
I don't mean there aren't a lot of other places that don't do it. I don't mean that by mentioning one place,
No,
but some place where that happened to me was,
And their service, I think, is some of the best I've had in general in the last maybe 2 years when we went there. Just top notch. Like the waiter clearly was like, I am here for you guys. Like, let's do this. Like,
I would say as a restaurant customer, that's one thing you can learn is to, you're going out and spending money. Mm-hmm. Most of you are probably going to tip because it's the right thing to do. And it's the polite thing to do. And if you have enough money to go out and buy $38 lobster tail entrees, you have enough money to tip.
Yes.
That's the way it works.
Yes.
And most people understand that. But you're paying for service. You're already paying for it. Ask them. Look, if they can't help you, they'll tell you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you, when you walk into a new restaurant, are you still excited? Like, is there a part of you that is still anticipating good things every time you walk into a restaurant?
I want every place to kill.
Yeah.
Because I want to live in a town that's surrounded by, that's just full to overflowing with restaurants that just kill.
Yeah, but I know if the last 4 years, obviously they're not all going to be hits. They're not all going to be good experiences. I think for us, we still pretty much we're around 400 restaurants we've been to, and I still get excited every time I go somewhere new. Like this, I'm hoping this is going to be great, but I'm nervous of the fact that I'm going to get to a point and dread being like, this is probably going to suck or so. I don't know. It's a weird feeling. I don't know.
Well, I try to find out as much as I can about a place before I walk in the door. If I'm walking in the door for the first time, read what there is to read about it.
Yeah.
which are sometimes people's opinions, other times, news articles, their
Yeah.
website. How restaurants open in this day and age, how somebody is willing to put $500,000 into a restaurant and not have to tell the whole world, to tell their own story,
Yeah,
and offer their wares to the world. It baffles me. It baffles me.
As experienced customers, I would say that would probably be my number one complaint, is that websites in Buffalo
Absolutely.
are just horrible.
Absolutely. There should be a check mark before you get your health license to open a restaurant that certifies that you have a legitimate, helpful website.
Yes.
I don't want flash. I don't want video. I don't want sound. I don't want any of that.
I don't want
Here's
any
what I want.
music at all.
I want your menu. I want your hours. I want your phone number, and I want your address. And if there's an email for contact, that's great too. But if you've already given me your phone number,
preferably,
I know where to find you during business hours, don't I?
And please, if you don't take credit cards, please post it somewhere on.
Yes, I agree. That is not optional. That needs to be on the minimum information load. But all of that could fit in like 5 tweets or some stupid unit of measure. It's not a lot of information you're asking people for. Put up a page that gets linked in Google to your restaurant name and help me find you and give you my money.
Amen. I cannot agree with that enough. It is so frustrating. And the part that there's restaurants that like almost pride themselves on having like no online presence, or like, I mean, you look at
who are you talking?
Well, I mean, maybe they don't pride themselves, but you look at like Mother's. There is nothing on Mother's, and I feel like they love that there's no website, or there's barely a Facebook page.
Have you ever talked to Mark Supples?
I have not. No.
He he wants to do what he wants to do.
Yeah.
And if you don't like it, don't come and give him money.
Yeah, I feel like that's their motto. Basically.
He's done terrifically well.
Yeah.
For himself, with a place people like, and it's kind of a reflection, a little bit of his personality.
Yeah.
And I probably wouldn't eat at Mother's every night if given the chance, anyways. But I have to say, it gives the whole place a little bit of a certain personality, and that he definitely stands out. It's distinct.
Yeah. So you think that in that kind of example, it's somewhat of a pass, or would you still prefer that I could get a menu anywhere?
No, I am totally all for the information being free. If you have a menu, you should tell the world what it is.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying that yeah, I think being kind of inaccessible is part of Mark Supple's particular thing, and I think he would not disagree with that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I don't know. But like, we were like looking up like seasonal hot dog stands and like seeing if like Connors or like Red Top or like any of those places, like, and like very almost no information at all. Well, like, just like poorly run Facebook pages.
I think what that shows you is that I think the way it's shaking out, and it's going to shake out, is that people who have a better digital presence are going to have I'm not saying it's an overwhelming leg up, but are going to have an advantage.
Yeah.
Going forward, because it's free advertising. It's marketing driven by the consumer, which is the most valuable kind. People who are seeking the information can find you.
Yeah. And I think you could even look at the food trucks as a really narrow example. And the ones who do it really well, the ones who are super active, who broadcast when they have new things, where they are definitely the ones that are seeming to be more popular than the ones who are like just linking it to Facebook and hoping that people follow.
That's right. That's effective communication. I have something tasty. Come find me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's a fascinating model for food service. I'm not sure what its like wider ramifications are, but I love the idea that it gives young hotshots a chance to work on their chops on the cheap, while looking for a lease or something.
Yeah.
If that's what it turns out to be. I have to say, actually tomorrow, my first I don't know what's going to happen when people read this review, but my first review of the first restaurant that's gone brick and mortar from a mobile.
Oh, R&R?
Pizza Amore.
Oh, Pizza Amore. I'm sorry. Yes, they were the first. On Grand Island.
Open up in a gas station on Grand Island.
Yeah.
So tomorrow's Buffalo News has my review is gas station pizza. And I offer in the review my explanation of why I think that is an appropriate subject to deal with in the space of the restaurant review.
Yeah.
And maybe people will agree with it, maybe they won't. But the thing is, it's authentic opinion.
Yeah.
It's really me. It's really what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have that argument with anybody.
Yeah.
And I think, it'd be nice to be able to go to a place 3 times to be absolutely certain that you had locked in every last detail of your opinion.
Yeah.
But, in the absence of somebody who wants to pay me to make restaurant reviewing half of my week instead of 10%.
Yeah.
I think the authentic opinion, plainly stated, is going to have to do for now.
Yeah. Well, I think it still works. I think it's... You'd really have to go to a restaurant that has a pretty grand vision, like someplace like a Mike A's, where you could almost justify going there a couple times because you wanted to get like a whole idea of their plan. But if you're going to like a little divey bar, I mean, you're pretty much going to get the same experience.
I think, there are places, the higher up the ranks you go, that have got major game going on in every facet of their presentation to the customer. Mike A's is one of those. I don't know that you're going to be able to tell people that much more about Buffalo Wild Wings.
Yeah, 9/11 Tavern.
after your third trip than your first.
Exactly. That's exactly my point. Yeah.
It doesn't mean you're not going to have lots of great things to say about it, but
yeah.
Because the hallmark and one of the most difficult things for restaurants to achieve, of course, is consistency.
True. Very true.
To make one experience like the next, but
yeah. I mean, Andrew, this has been an awesome conversation. I really appreciate you coming down here to the studio and talking.
Well, it's awesome to see what you've done with your beautiful girl, and you guys have added a valuable element to the whole food scene in Buffalo. I mean, I'm just one guy. I can do so much. Plus, I'm lazy, and I'm not a very good writer, so that hinders my effectiveness. So, honestly, the more people who love Buffalo food and want to talk about it and want to shine flashlights or spotlights or whatever into interesting little corners, the better for everybody.
I agree.
That way, everybody's sitting at home on their butts, not willing to go out and spend money on a restaurant, can click on Facebook or buffaloeats.org.
Yes.
And say, maybe I should get off the couch.
Oh, this kid used to just like chicken fingers, and now he's eating this weird raw beef somewhere.
Maybe this time it's actually worth it.
But I can't thank you enough. You've been incredibly supportive. You've linked to our post on your blog and mentioned us in that Cleveland piece. I mean, I can't say thank you enough. I really appreciate it because I really respect what you do. I've really enjoyed that you've become the lead restaurant reviewer this last year and change, and it's really good stuff.
Well, thank you. And I just have to say that I think one important thing I wanted to say about being a restaurant critic, that 10% of my job everybody wants to talk about.
Yeah.
I view myself this way. I am not preaching at people from the lectern. I'm not up at the pulpit bringing you the 10 commandments.
Yeah.
What I hope to do is lead a conversation.
Yes.
That's all I can ask for is to be listened to and to be joined in by other voices. We can have arguments. We can do whatever, but there are things worth pointing out and things worth recognizing. And I think that the more people who are involved in that, the better, as far as I'm concerned. I love to read other people's stuff. I love reading something delicious about food in Buffalo that I didn't write because I'm lazy that way. So thank you.
All right. Well, Andrew, again, thank you for coming down here. This was a long time coming, but it worked out. So thank you very much.
You're so welcome.